Alright, this is video number 4, and with each video, I'm going to be starting with the same chart. This is kind of an updated one, and kind of fixed it up a little bit. And again, what we're dealing with here, this specific period of time, known as Platonic year, and we're swapping out the years for days. And so this is the number right here, okay? And this period starts at the Nuremberg executions, 10/16/1946, and the biblical date was the 7th day of Sukkot, and you had the transition between at sunset on 10/16/1946, you had the transition into the 8th day assembly, which is oftentimes called the last great day. And so what you have here is that transition from the Nuremberg executions. You had a closing of essentially what happened in World War II. You had a closing of time, which match up perfectly with the biblical dates. Okay, and this is the last great day, and you're going from the last great day right here into the last great year. Okay, this period of time is called the great year. We're going to call it the last great year. And again, you're transitioning from the last great day into the last great year. And so this period that started at the Nuremberg executions concludes on Sukkot 2017. It would be between 10/3/4/2017. Okay, and so within this framework, or Platonic year in days, it's just a mirror of what's transpiring in the heavens, and we're taking it from the year scale down to the day scale. It's no different than the two witnesses who are given 3.5 years. Okay, there's also a 3.5 day period. It's the same ratio, or same it's the same thing going on here. It's going from days to years. And I think that the Bible speaks of this many times. A day with the Lord is like 1,000 years. Essentially, that things are taking place at different scales, and I think, and this is what's taking place here, I believe. All right, and so we're just taking what's taking place, and this is just the precession of the equinox at the day scale. And so what I've done here is I've taken it and I've broken it down into its or divine proportions again. And so what happens once you break this period down right here, okay, into its divine proportions, or phi, okay, you're left with two very, very prophetic periods of time within this period, which would be called the golden section or golden angle. And everything here can be equated to degrees, because at the heavenly scale, it would be every 72 years would represent 1 degree of precession. At this scale, it's every 72 days. Okay, and so you just divide 72 into this 9,900. Okay, and that gives you 137.5 degrees. That's your golden angle. It's also 330 months, and that's what it is. So within your golden section here, okay, you have a period of 42 months. Prophetically, this is you read about it in Daniel and in Revelations, okay. And we're just counting back 42 months, or 1,260 days. Everything here is a prophetic count, meaning it's a 360-day period. All right. When you count back 1,260 days from Sukkot 2017, it takes you to 4/22/23/2014. Is the day that the Grand Cardinal Cross, all right, is coming into perfect alignment. It is splitting the Passover eclipse on 4/15/2014 and the solar eclipse on 4/29/2014. It splits in half because this is a lunar eclipse, and it's also the new moon, or full moon, I'm sorry, and this is your new moon, okay, and this is a third quarter moon. And so it seems way too perfect here for this to be some kind of I don't know, Illuminati trick. Okay, there's a lot going on here. It seems to be uh, very very prophetic. Okay, because well, what you're left with after you remove the 42 months or 1260 days, okay, is you're left with this period right here, which represents a third of time. It represents a third of the overall time, and this number also represents a third of the stars, okay, because it's 120 degrees. And so what's taking place in the heavens during this period at the year scale is that Draco's tail sweeps through 120 degrees of a circle, okay, and it represents a third of the stars, and it represents a third of time, okay. And so within the golden section of a Platonic year, you find these two periods right here, okay, and in this particular time frame, you're starting on the Nuremberg executions on 10/16/1946, and you're concluding it on Sukkot 2017, and here's your golden section right here. All right, so this is just one chart, and again, the you know, just if you forget about everything else here for a minute, what happened at the Nuremberg executions, okay, you very much have a closing of time that happened that related to the Second World War. At just that very level, you very much have a closing of a period of time, okay? And then you start adding the biblical dates, all right? Sukkot, the 7th day of Sukkot, which is on the 7th month. Sukkot's the 7th feast. The number 7 in the Bible, hundreds of times, over and over, from Genesis to the Revelation. 7, among other things, but very, very frequently, it's a closing of a period of time. All right, 7. This happened on the 7th day of Sukkot. Just an example, Jericho. What happened with Joshua? The 7th day, 7 circles. Okay, the walls came down. It started a new period on the 8th day, or started a new era in the Torah from Genesis and Leviticus is filled with things that happen in sevens that conclude a period of time. And that is exactly what's transpiring here, okay? And so, at many levels, you have a closing of a period of time. All right, and this is just a reflection of what's taking place in the heavens. It's just on a smaller scale, broken into its divine proportions. All right, and this would be the date. You know, the Grand Cardinal Cross represents, then, if this is accurate, then it represents the start of the tribulation period, right? That is what it does. And it perfectly splits these two eclipses, lunar and solar. This is the start of the tetrad right here. 7 days later, this whole period from Passover to the solar eclipse. It's a fortnight, in the third quarter moon splits it. All right, so you can see how it fits within the golden section. All right, so I have another chart that I'm going to be going to, and so this is called a great year. All right, so you can also, just like you can a year's got 12 months. You can break this down into seasons and months, and this is just briefly how it looks. Okay, that's what I've done. I've broken the whole period down into months and seasons. All right, each one of these months represents 6 prophetic years. This is 6 years, 6 years, 6 years. It's 216 months. This is a day count. Okay, so this is where we're at right now. The season, I guess you could call Capricorn, but we're in the Scorpio period right here. All right, so that's what I've done, and the whole time frame is 864 months, and again, it represents a circle. this period of time represents a circle, and here's your 360 degrees. Everything can be broken down into degrees. All right. So I have another chart that I'm going to skip to, and I'm going to start talking about how things within this time frame, all right, can be equated to degrees, and it reveals a whole other level of meaning. And this is just a stripped down version, all right. But essentially, we're talking about the same time frame. All right, we're talking about the Nuremberg executions on 10/16/1946, the 7th day of Sukkot. You have the very next day, which is the 8th day assembly. You have a new beginnings, number 8, new beginnings. All right, and so we're going from the Nuremberg executions to the rebirth of Israel as a nation on 5/14/1948. All right, while the day count here probably won't stand out to anybody, but again, because this period represents every 72 days represents 1 degree, you have 8 degrees of separation between the start of this period and the rebirth of Israel. Okay, there's 8 degrees of separation between the two. 8. You have the 8th day assembly, which was right here on 10/16. Okay, and then there's 8 degrees of separation between 5/14/1948 and the Nuremberg executions. Okay, so this is just one example of many how this time frame seems to fit in with many prophetic events. All right, and so I'm going to skip to another chart. And this chart's a little bit confusing. I should have probably stripped it down a little more than I did. All right, so again, we're dealing with the same time frame here, the Nuremberg executions right here. Okay, and this is Sukkot 2017. Or I'm sorry, this section here represents the first month. Okay, let me go back to this chart for a second. Okay, I'm going to be discussing right now what transpired, all right here in its very first month. Okay, and that's what this next chart represents. Okay, and again, I'm going to be talking about what happened with Israel in particular. And so here again, you have your 8 degrees separation. Okay, well, see, Israel went into war immediately after they became a nation. Okay, and from that period, from 5/4/14 and 5/15/1948, okay, to the last lunar eclipse on Sukkot on 9/26/1950, okay, there's 864 days that separate these two events right here. Okay, and the equal dividing of this time, all right, is right here. It was 7/20/1949. That was the armistice with Syria. So here you start seeing already 864. This date here, splitting it in half, 432 days on either side, and so 432 is equal to 6 degrees, 12 degrees for 864. So everything happening in this first month, probably more so than all the other ones, can be equated to degrees. And even though most people aren't familiar with, like, let's say 405 days, but everything here is evenly spaced, that it represents degrees. And for instance, all right, this is the Sukkot date. This is the last lunar eclipse of the tetrad that was in place in 1950. All right, there's 10 degrees of separation between this date and the last date of this month. Okay, it's 2160 days. This is the first 30 degrees of rotation, if you want to call it that. Okay, and then there's 10 degrees between these two events. All right, so I also want to talk about what happened right here. Okay, even though this date doesn't really stand out. Okay, what it does 5/8/1949. All right, it splits the first armistice Israel had with Egypt. Egypt was the first country to reach an armistice as a result of the War of Independence. Okay, that happened on 2/24/1949. They were the first. Syria was the last. All right, it happened on 7/20/1949. All right, and 5/8/1949 is the dividing of time here. Okay, it's 73 days on either side of this event. Okay, and so from this date, all right, I'm going to count back. All right, this is 27 cycles of great years and days. Okay, it's 27 times 25,920. All right, that's what we've been talking about. That's what all these numbers are related to. Is this period? They're all interconnected together. And so we're going back 27 cycles from this dividing of time right here. It's the day count is 6,999 840. Okay, again it's just 27 times 25,920. We count back this period right here from the splitting of these two events right here. It takes you to April 3rd, 33 AD. All right, this is one of the predominant dates for the crucifixion of Jesus. It is precisely 27 cycles of Platonic years and days to this date, which splits, all right, these two events right here. Okay, and so if this was the crucifixion date of Christ, if this was the actual date, all right, then Jesus rose 3 days later. All right, so we're going to move ahead in time 3 days. Okay, 3 days after 5/8/1949 takes you to 5/11/1949. Okay, this is the 27th day of the counting of the Omar. Okay, it was the day that Israel was admitted into the UN. They were accepted by the world body as a nation on this date. Okay, so if you count back 27 cycles of Platonic years, it would take you to the resurrection of Jesus. All right, precisely 27 cycles. There's precisely 27 books in the New Testament, and the last one is the revelation of Yeshua as Messiah. It's 27. There's 27 books in the New Testament, in the revelation of Jesus as Messiah. It's the 27th. You have 27 cycles of Platonic years and days. All right, from what would be the resurrection date of Jesus, if indeed it was on April 3rd, 33 AD, if that was the crucifixion date. All right, you just come forward 3 days. It would take you to the 27th day of the counting of the Omar. All right, that is where it takes you. And then as a kicker here, Jordan reached its armistice with Syria on April 3rd. All right, and that was 1949. Okay, this is the Julian date. This is a Gregorian date. But isn't that interesting that this is, that there's a reflection here in what's transpiring here. The cycle of 27, okay, 27 books in the New Testament, which is the revelation of Jesus Christ as Messiah, takes you to the 27th day of the counting of the Omar on 5/11/1949. But everything here is balanced. Everything is within the time frame that I've been speaking of. You have from 5/14/15/1948 to 5/8/1949. All right, it's one prophetic year. It's 5 degrees. And so what I'm saying is that this time frame. And I'm gonna go back to this first chart here. Okay, it seems to be very accurate as far as some prophetic things that have happened in the past. It's certainly, it's just a fact. It is. All right. And so we're right on the precipice of this date right here. Okay. And actually, I believe I have another chart I'm going to go over briefly. in any case, I believe that's what you have here. This is the start of the tribulation right here. Okay, and I've demonstrated before on the last chart how many of the prophetic events, in particular what happened with Israel, is just a fact. It happens. There's a symmetry to it. There is absolute. There seems to be a divine plan that's beyond the scope of a certain group of people trying to set things up. It seems to be too great and too vast for a handful of people to try to be making this happen. Right, in my opinion. All right, and so I'm going to talk briefly about a little bit more about Barack Obama, because many of the things that he has done, whether he's aware of it or not, all right, fits within the framework that I've been speaking of. This is just one example, all right. Whether Barack Obama is aware of it or not, it really doesn't matter to me personally. But on February 10th, 2007, that is the date that Barack Obama announced to the world that he was going to be running for president, all right. And so from that date to Purim this year, so on 3/16/17, all right, it's 25,992 days. All right, this is just a smaller scale of what's happening here. Different scale. Okay, this is this would be times 10. All right, that's what we're dealing with here. It's a smaller scale, and so I would expect, this date here on Purim, you could probably expect to see some escalation, maybe of the Ukraine situation. You could probably expect to see some kind of flare up between Israel and Iran. Okay, but it would be just kind of the building up, I believe, to what's going to be transpiring right here at the Grand Cardinal Cross. All right, and if you're an astronomer, there's plenty of people that have been writing about it. Unfortunately, they don't talk about God a whole lot, or Yeshua as their Messiah, but they certainly can pick it out, and they pretty much unanimous, or they're all pretty much in agreement that there's a major strife that would be indicated by this Grand Cardinal Cross. Unfortunately for them, they're not probably aware of this period, how it relates, and so anyways, what I'm saying is that what they're seeing is the start of the tribulation period. Okay. And so you can see how immediately Barack Obama, within the framework, all right, he starts hitting some pretty significant dates, and this is just one little aspect. This date right here is very profound and prophetic in how it touches other dates. This is just one aspect here. Okay, and all right, so there is one more person. I've talked a little bit about John Kerry in the previous videos, and I've talked about Barack Obama, but the person who started me off in this adventure 3 years ago, all right, I started out to try to disprove some of the things that I was reading about this person as a possible Antichrist. All right, I started to set out to disprove what I was reading, and then in the process, I kept on finding more and more and more things that actually would indicate that there's a strong possibility, in fact, that maybe this person does have a significant role to play in the end times. And so it's Prince William, all right, and so that is somebody who I will be watching very closely over the next year and a half. All right, so because I've seen this totally independent, all right, of anything that I had done previously in regards to Prince William and his possible connection into end time events. All right, totally independent. And then once I started, I checked his date out, his birth date, and some other very specific dates in his life. And once you know it, it's in perfect agreement with the time frame here. It's beyond you know, a coincidence, in my opinion, that he prophetically is really seems to be part of this time frame. And I'm going to go into that a little bit. And this is the next chart. And again, there's a lot going on here, so I'm going to try to skip some of it. All right. So essentially what you have here, this is 6/21, 1982. The biblical date was the 1st of Tammuz. And so what this date does, it acts as a pivot point between what happened in the past and what I believe will happen in the future. Okay? It acts as a pivot point, or you can mirror this time and put it over here. And so in a sense, we've already talked about what happened here with Israel and how you see this 864 show up and then the armistice splitting that time. All right, so what I've essentially done here is that from this Sukkot date in 1950, all right, to the 1st of Tammuz, I'm sorry, right here, 1st of Tammuz in 1882, which is the summer solstice, okay, the same time frame from here to here, okay, going forward in time would take you to Purim, okay. This is the same thing that Brock, this is the same date that Brock hits with absolute precision from the day he announced to the world he was president. So here you see another person that's hitting Purim, you know, and this is just a totally different scale, totally separate, but within the time frame, it's absolutely perfect. All right, and so going back in time, 864, you have that splitting here. Same thing over here, okay, but this time it's starting at Purim, and it ends on 7/28, 2016. So this date would be a reflection, okay, of this one right here on 5/14 or 5/14, 5/15, 1948. This date then would be a correspondence to this date using the summer solstice 1982 as a pivot point, okay? And so again, like I was talking about, within the framework, you can see what happens, all right? So this would be the corresponding date for the War of Independence and Israel becoming a nation. Okay, you have another 432 days to Sukkot, 2017. All right, so it fits perfectly within the time frame. You know, these numbers show up over and over. This is 6 degrees. All right, 432 has been that number has been well, it's typically associated with some esoteric meanings, but you know, it's just at this scale, it's just a reflection of what's taking place. This just represents 6 degrees, all right, of rotation within this number. And I know there's other meanings behind it, but I'm not going to get into that. As well as this is a 864 is very much a solar number. But so you can see what happens again using the 1st of Tammuz in 1982 as a pivot point, okay? And again, you can see within the time frame that I'm speaking of, it's in perfect symmetry. It's just not missing a beat here. And so you can do the same thing. Okay, this is Purim on 3/1/1991. It happens to be Prince William's first official public engagement. He happened to be 8 years, 8 months, and 8 days old, which seems to be very odd that his first official engagement happened when he was 8 years, 8 months, and 8 days old. But in any case, all right, this is the date of that event. Okay, and so we're going to come down here, and we're going to see what happens. Okay, we're using that. Now we're going to use this Purim date in 1991. We're going to count back 8,712 days. All right. It takes you to 4/24/1967. All right, this was the start of the tetrad in 1967. Okay, and so we're going to come back here. We're going to go forward in time, that same period. All right, and when you do that, it takes you to the center of the tetrad, in 2015 on 1/5/2015. All right, so these are two very important dates for Prince William, right here and here. Okay, and they both seem to have a connection to what happened in the past, and most of these dates are yet future. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing with this date. All right, on 6/3/1991, Prince William received a wound to the head. It fractured his skull. This is also a very significant date for him. All right, so we're using this date now, doing the same thing here. We're going to come back a certain period of time. In this case, it's 8,755 days. All right, it takes you to Shavuot in 1967. This was the first Pentecost or Shavuot that Israel had after it recaptured Jerusalem. So now we're going to go forward in time the same period. We're going to do so. It takes you to Shavuot, all right, at 5/23/24/2015. So again, these are three most significant events in Prince William's life, all right. You can use the baptism, I suppose, as well. I think that was important, but these were very prophetic, or very significant dates for him. So you can see, as you connect to things in the past, they were very significant events, especially with regards to Israel. For whatever reason, it's just a fact. All right. And going forward in time, you can see what's happening. They correspond to the center of the tetrad, Shavuot, Purim. Okay, so this is why Purim, I believe, this year in 2014, is going to be significant. I think things are going to start to ratchet up to the 422, the Grad Crown of the Cross. And also, you know, I believe that for Prince William to, you know, this is very interesting, and it's just simple math, and things connect together. It's just a fact. So whether or not this is coincident or not, I think we're going to find out soon enough. And I think it's very, very possible that you may see him raised in his position, either the changing of the guard in the royal family, or whatever case, whatever elevation there might be with him. You may see it around on 4/18/2014, so right around the Good Friday. All right, I think there's a strong possibility his elevation, her stature in the world scene might be elevated around Good Friday in 2014. All right, so this is video number 4. I got probably 3 more to do. God bless. Take care.